also want to thank JD and everyone else who contributes to making this conference happen. It's obviously a labor of love, and it's a beautiful community here. And that's sort of the focus of this talk, is on this community and how we've grown, evolved, and built together. So 11 years of MacDevOpsYVR. That's pretty amazing. Matt, I love the spinal tap thing. All the dials go up to 11, and you know, I think certainly love the graphics as well that you've done this year. So, and my story. So in 2018, this was the first conference that I gave a talk solo at, and for me that's really meaningful because I've gone on to speak in a lot of different places, and in some ways this has kind of been a pivotal moment in my career and my evolution. And I know that Matt has really tried to foster an environment of safety, of welcomeness, so that a lot of folks have given their first talks or revealed projects for the first time, or these kind of things here at MacDevOps, and I personally am deeply grateful for that. So I want to talk a little bit about the way that we have evolved as a community and as practitioners through some things that I've observed about the talks that we do here at this conference. And so I'll talk a bit about trying to focus particularly on talks from recent years, these various themes in this process that we go through of evolution here. So I think that we often start with this sort of foundation of exploring capabilities, and I'm going to need to get my speaker notes up because I want to call out some of these awesome talks that people have done over the years. Let's get that up there. Oh. And who knows how to get the speaker notes up? Yes, there we go. Yes, so first, exploring capabilities. And so this is something that we do regularly and on an ongoing basis. Every time a new macOS version comes out, every time we become aware of new security concerns, new and existing technologies that we don't understand as well as we might like to get our jobs done effectively. So recent great examples of talks like this, Katie English from last year, MDM for Control Freaks, or Wes Whetstone, the Keychain Quandary Conundrum. Great name, Wes. Not sure if you're in the room at the moment. And as a reminder, these talks all get recorded. They're on YouTube, and the MacDevOps YouTube channel is a gold mine of awesome information for those who have the interest of us in this room and us watching on the live stream right now. So every talk that I mention here, every tool that I mention through this talk is well documented through these former presentations that are all available there. So the next thing that I've seen that we do is crafting user experience, and I think ultimately many of us believe that this sort of the ultimate goal of MacDevOps is to provide a service to these end users and to our organizations who are using these computing devices. And so a lot of us are thinking about crafting the user experience here. So there's talks like Rebecca Latimer on Managed Software Center from last year, Prima Virani talking about supercharged security, self-service beyond limits in 2023. And my apologies if I butcher anyone's names here. Please shout out a correction if you know it. Otherwise, I'm just going to do my best. And then we've built tools, and I'm going to focus a whole bunch more on building tools in this talk because I think that this community in particular has birthed a lot of amazing tools that we are all making use of pretty regularly and talking about here at MacDevOpsYVR. And so talks like Bart Reardon gave 2 talks last year on Swift Dialog. One was a workshop, one was sort of about the journey of building Swift Dialog. Those were really awesome. And Charvel Shah, who is in the audience here right now, gave a workshop on building an OSQuery extension last year. So there's lots of talks of this genre as well. And then automating workflows, so bringing automation in the sort of DevOps portion of this, if you will. David K. last year gave the talk on terraforming simple MDM. Armin Briegel gave the Encyclopedia of macOS Automation Tools in 2022. And then measuring success. So I think this is also one of the fundamental tenets of DevOps and building maturity around this, is that we need to be able to actually measure, monitor, and review the changes that we're making and see that they're leading to the outcomes that we're looking for. And so some talks have focused on that. Sam Keeley talked about, Sam, I think you're in the room, at least I saw you yesterday, massively deploying security keys with a little help from OSQuery and friends. And that was in 2023. Tim Sutton talked about stories and learnings from macOS continuous integration at scale, and that was using a bunch of dashboards that showed how things were going as configurations changed. And then there's Uplifting Community, which is a bit of a softer kind of talk, less technical, typically in my observations, but we've got talks like Greg Nagel's How to Contribute to Open Source, or Graham Gilbert, who's focused a lot on these kind of things recently, but last year his talk was building a diverse client engineering teams. And this year, Graham, I know that you're speaking about becoming a staff engineer. So I think that, you know, not only is the technical part important, but building community, uplifting people, and advancing in our careers is something awesome that I've seen addressed often here at MacDevOps. And so this has kind of sent us through this journey of evolution in MacDevOps. So first exploring capabilities, then crafting user experience, building tools, measuring success, uplifting the community, and then repeating. And through this, we have continued to advance the sort of art and craft of managing Macs. And I think that we have come to embody, for real, the name of this conference, MacDevOps. Like, we are bringing these DevOps practices to this world of Apple. And I just, in thinking about this, I also was kind of digging around online, and I found the capability maturity model, which was something that was kind of invented, I think, in the 80s maybe, or 90s, to think about software engineering and the capabilities of organizations. And I think that this actually is a fairly useful tool for those of us here in this room to think about what we are doing to try to improve the maturity of our organizations. And I think that if you look at all of these talks, these different themes and genres of talk, they're almost all focused on moving us right in this model. And so I think that whether we were aware of this or not, we were following this process to try to formalize things, to try to get more control, more definition, become more proactive, and become more effective at measuring our success. And so I want to talk about some of these projects. This is particularly the building tools portion that have come out of this community. And something that I think is really special is just how much, in this relatively small room, the creators of these projects have come here to announce these projects, explain how to use them, and share their visions for what's going on with them. I'm gonna name a bunch that came to mind. I'm sure there are many that I'm missing, and but I just want to acknowledge that so many of us have contributed to advancing this craft. So Munki. I think that this is probably the most talked about tool in all of MacDevOpsYVR over the years, and Greg Nagel has contributed immensely to this community through Munki, which is, for those who aren't familiar, a tool for managing software installations and removals on Macs. I think probably almost everyone here is familiar because, again, Munki gets discussed, I'm sure, at least once every year. If you go back through those archives, it is probably the most common topic. MunkiReport, the reporting dashboard that I just saw on someone's laptop right here. This is definitely getting used quite a bit, and folks who've been in this room speaking about it, Arjen von Bochoven, if anyone knows the correct, please let me know. John Crane, Tuxedo, those folks gave a workshop on MunkiReport, I think during the COVID year. AutoPkg, again, a Greg Nagel project, as well as Tim Sutton and Nick McSpadden, who's in the room or was in the room last night. Woohoo! So AutoPkg is automation for preparing software packages for installation and really commonly used with Munki. We've got OSQuery, which is a project that I helped create and that other folks in this room, in this community, contributed to. Charvel has contributed for a long time, and also something that's been talked about a lot over the years here at MacDevOpsYVR. Hello IT, the configurable menu bar application from Johan Gini. This was discussed a few years ago. Nudge, Eric Gomez's project for enforcing and encouraging macOS updates. And Nudge was an awesome project and has effectively been Sherlocked, I'd say, by Apple's new OS update functionality. But in this case, I think it's probably a good thing because we're now all benefiting from better software update enforcement. But I think that Eric was a pioneer on this front, on kind of building user experience to encourage this super fundamental and important thing of software updates. Swift Dialog, again, I already mentioned Bart Reardon discussed this extensively last year, but Swift Dialog is kind of this amazing foundational tool that people use to build dialogues and workflows, and I think it's so cool to see everything that folks are building with Swift Dialog. And Crypt from Graham Gilbert and Wes Whetstone, used for enforcing disk encryption and escrowing encryption keys. Another awesome project. Zentral from Henry Stummer Johan. He's usually here. I don't see you out there, Henry. We miss you if you're listening on the live stream. Micro and NanoMDM, which, the original MicroMDM that Victor Grube built, and then Jesse Peterson became a major contributor, and then Jesse's later work on NanoMDM. This was super important for a lot of teams, and certainly very important for myself and my journey at Fleet and what we've done at Fleet, as I'll talk about a little bit more later. And Jesse, I saw you yesterday. If you're in the room, thank you for everything you're doing. Victor, I haven't seen you. We miss you as well. And I also want to mention that we've had some sort of graduations from community members in this room to Apple employees. So Victor, Vranchin, Grube, Mike Lynn, Frogger have kind of come up in this community, helped us explore and learn, and then been kind of recognized for their expertise by Apple and brought in, and now are sort of great allies for us on the inside there at Apple. And I think that being able to know and learn from these folks over the years here at MacDevOpsYVR has been really awesome. So that brings us to 2025, which I am going to claim as the year of GitOps in IT. So in the past couple of years, we've seen talks about using Zentral and simple MDM via Terraform to bring GitOps to MDM. This year, there's some talks about this. Rod and Carmel are each doing talks discussing GitOps. And of course, I'm here representing Fleet and sponsoring this conference. And this is a major focus of Fleet in the current time, where we are using GitOps for MDM and observability on macOS, but also across all of the platforms. And I think that we're probably the first cross-platform MDM with GitOps support. So a little bit more about Fleet. We are deeply inspired by this conference and this community here. I'm very proud to be a platinum sponsor, see this conference happening again this year, as always, on the 11th year. And in particular because Fleet was built on both the ideas that have been developed by the folks at this conference and in this community, and also literally the code and some of these projects that I've mentioned earlier. So for example, Fleet was born as a sort of management interface for OSQuery, a way to get telemetry and reporting, and OSQuery still sits at the foundation of what Fleet does, living on each of the endpoints in your organization. When Fleet went to go build macOS MDM, the code from MicroMDM and NanoMDM became some of the core of what we used to build this implementation. And when we went to build software update functionality for MDM, we used Nudge. Literally, we used Eric Gomez's project. And again, this has now been mostly replaced, at least in newer versions of macOS, which I think most folks are on at this point, by Apple's new built-in user experience. But like I said, we have been so embedded and so inspired in this work, and so we're very proud to be here sponsoring this conference. I'm also really honored to have seen our community members from Fleet, and as well as some of our customers, talk about their experiences using Fleet, both the open source version and some of the premium features. Yeah, and I just want to talk a little bit more about GitOps and Fleet. So this is kind of fundamentally built into what we're doing. If you haven't seen it, you want to, let's say, enforce OS updates in this example. Open a PR on GitHub setting your deadline and minimum version. You can discuss and review. You can set up any sort of enforcement. This works on GitHub, GitLab, any sort of version control or CI system that you might want to do. So client platform engineer developer pushes the profile or pushes the configuration, requests review on GitHub, someone else approves, and then CI runs and pushes the configurations out to Fleet, and then you'd be able to see those reflected in the UI. So this becomes a great opportunity to embed the GitHub practice throughout, the GitOps practice throughout the stack of your device management. If you're interested more about GitOps, Harrison, who's in the crowd here, is giving some workshops around the world actually about this. So red has already happened, blue are upcoming locations. If you're interested in joining for those workshops, come chat with us at the booth or find myself or Patricia or Harrison, and those are free workshops that we're doing all over. It's also happening in Sydney and Paris and some other places around the world, so have a fun trip, Harrison. Again, I want to look back at this capability and maturity model and just think about how all the practices that we're doing here at this conference and everything that Fleet is espousing through the product that we've built is helping us move to the right up the maturity levels as we continue to make MacDevOps be true DevOps and bring engineering practices and rigor to our Apple management practices. I want to point out that And WWDC 2025, just this week, Apple made a really great announcement about MDM migrations. This is something we had been begging and pleading for, and we're thrilled to see this new functionality where you can now configure the MDM in ABM. Have people seen this? Raise your hand if you saw this. Okay, yeah, this is awesome. I am thrilled. You can set your MDM, the deadline that you want the device to go to, and the user starts getting nagged. Again, this sort of user experience that was pioneered, I think, by Nudge. The user sees both on iOS devices and on Macs that they need to enroll or change their enrollment for their device. And then when they get to a deadline, it's forced. They must do the migration at that point. This is awesome. We've seen so many talks here about the challenges associated with doing this. We've congratulated folks for 98% completion of these things after 2 months. We're going to be able to do so much better with so much less effort now, and I deeply appreciate all the work that so many of us have done to make migrations better over the years, both customers, vendors, and everyone. But I think that this is huge, that now folks can choose the best MDM for their needs and be less encumbered by the pains of migration. This is awesome. Thank you, Apple. So Fleet could be your last MDM migration. Almost certainly now it will be your smoothest MDM migration. And it's open core, self-hosted if you want, or in the cloud, we'll host it for you, and it will be that way forever. So it'll always be open, it will always be self-hostable, and we want you to have the flexibility to do whatever makes the most sense for your organization. So again, thank you so much to Matt and everyone for being here. Welcome to MacDevOpsYVR 2025. For those of you it's your first time, I just want to say you're in the best of company here. We've got a lot of legends, but they're all very friendly and don't bite. And so welcome to this community. Feel free to engage and talk. And I know Matt usually accommodates last minute lightning talks and that kind of thing. So if you're feeling inspired, come on, get up here. And maybe it could be your first chance to speak at a conference as well this week. Thank you.